Welcome to The Mix, a fusion dance podcast where we dive into the world of blending dances and all that comes with it. We're talking about everything from the highs of nailing that perfect combo to the lows, emotional, and mental challenges and more. And if you're new to the dance scene, don't worry, we've got you covered with practical tips to help get you started, feel comfortable, and most importantly, have fun. So come on in. We can't wait to dance with you. All right, welcome to another episode of The Mix, a fusion dance podcast. My name is Trang.
My name is Kaylin. Hello, how are you?
And today, I'm trying not to laugh, but we are talking about basic 101 in dance and pet peeves and things you should know. And let's start off straight up with hygiene.
Oh, yeah. Okay,
Where do we
so
begin?
here's the thing, right? Here's the thing. Look, there are a lot of things in life you can't control, you know? You can't control that car on the freeway that's crossing over into your lane. You know what I'm saying? You can't control them, you know? You can't control gas prices and you definitely can't control the weather. But there is little to no excuse for having stank breath. Listen, I'm so sorry to be the one to say this, but folks, my people, me and they, we got to come through with the mints. There, look, I'm saying, here's the thing. You're doing a social activity, right? This is a social activity. You're interacting with people. And I'm saying this as someone who is aware that I enjoy garlic and onions and very strong smelling things. However, I always, as a matter of fact, I have a dance bag. I have a bag that is specific for all of my dance excursions and activities. And in said bag, I always keep a pack of mints on me because I can't be 3 inches from somebody else smelling like garlic knots and pizza. It's just not okay, family. It's not. And we have to be honest enough with each other to recognize, hey, sometimes we be wilding and sometimes we just need to say, you know what? Can I you got a stick of gum? You got some you got some Altoids on you. You got something? Cause like I need it, right? So we have to be honest with ourselves, folks. And I'm saying this from a place of love. Okay, I love you respectfully. But like I feel like we gotta make sure we don't come out here to these dances with stank breath. It's just not okay. We can't do it. We cannot allow it. I'm saying this as someone who is trying to change for the better.
Thank you. I think you said what a lot of people have been saying or think. I collect myself here. But okay, look, some people, of course, there's some health issues out there
Mhm,
that, sweat
mhm.
and they can't help it.
That's true. That's
That
true.
we
That's true.
understand, right?
Mhm.
But I think a lot of people are unaware of how they smell sometimes because they say you can't really smell yourself as well as like other people. And I think for me, we've talked about this off offline, but how breath is one of the first things that kind of hits you
Mhm.
from your dance partner.
Aggressively sometimes.
And it's one of those things where I think people don't realize when you're dancing. Dance is a workout, right? So you're exhaling at a pretty more rapid rate than usual. And that exhale, okay, look, most guys are taller than me, right? That I dance with.
It's just like aggressively just hitting you straight in the face, like every time too. You're just like, I'm trying to breathe some H2O. Sorry, some oxygen. H2O. It's not, you don't want to breathe H2O. I'm trying to breathe some oxygen and just boom, aggressive. It's just like, all right, fish sticks, boom, McChicken, boom. Like it's yeah, no, that's all bad. It's like, come on, guys. We gotta get it together.
If
Okay, we
in
gotta
doubt,
get it together.
yeah, if in doubt, have some breath mints, have some gum. And guys that are most guys are taller than me when they dance. And because of that, their mouth is probably at my nose height. And so it really does hit more often than I'd like. And I'd like to apologize in advance on those nights where I didn't bring gum. I might have breathed onto someone that I danced on. Whoops. But we also there's deodorant as well. And I think okay, as the night gets on, people sweat more. Maybe they're in body is digesting some food 4 hours later into the night, and so there's and it's a lot of sweat, right?
Yeah.
So naturally, I do notice that I can smell a funk like in the dance room at some locations as the night goes later on. So it's kind of expected.
Yeah.
But once in a while you smell something really strong and you're like, okay, I don't know that person's aware of it, but also using deodorant. Or I feel like sometimes when people have running errands throughout the day and then they go straight to
Yeah.
dancing and they maybe been sweating throughout the day and they don't realize like that odor's coming out. But yeah, no, it's there. And I think when I started dancing and started smelling some of these smells, I started getting really paranoid for myself. And so that's when I started doing my little, like, again, like what you did, like a little dancer pack, right? In my bag,
Mhm.
I have mints, I have gum, hand sanitizer if I want to.
Yeah.
Definitely put
Yeah.
deodorant on like hours beforehand, wipes, things like that, and also water.
Ooh, wipes. You know what? That's one I gotta add to my bag. That's a good one. That's
I
a
do
good one.
notice some guys, I do notice they might bring like a second shirt or two.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, the second shirt is clutch. The second shirt is so clutch. I will, especially if I know it's gonna be a night where it's just like it's a lot of dancing. I'm like, okay, cool. I'm gonna grab an extra shirt, like just an extra t-shirt, something so that I have something to change into. And if it's not that active of a night, okay, cool. I have a shirt to change into for the drive back. But for the most part, like I know, like there's a point where you're like, okay, I'm not just like moist, like I'm wet. Like I have too much sweat. Like I am steaming with sweat right now. I need I need to change my shirt. You know what I mean? And for at least for me, like I think being in a sport where like you're very much used to being covered in sweat and a lot of it not your own. Like I'm like, okay, cool. During this time, I'm good, but immediately after, I need a shower. And because of how close it is, I'm like, well, I want to be a good partner, a good practice partner, right? So I try to shower beforehand if I can. And if I can't, for whatever reason, I can't get to a shower. I'm like, okay, well, I can layer up a little bit. Like I can add some extra deodorant there. Um, and that's one of those things where I feel like for some, it may not necessarily come naturally. Like it may not be something that you think of, that you're just, oh, like this is something I need to do. But I like how you kind of put it where you were like, oh, when other people are kind of like, or like when I've smelled other people, or like when I've had other partners who might have been a little bit like, ooh, they're a little ripe, right? It makes you think, oh, I don't, is that me? I don't want to be, you know what I mean? Having that self-awareness enough to think like, ooh, yeah, I don't want to contribute to the fun party in this way.
And
I think that's
yeah,
real. No, it's real.
I was reading online because about what causes odor and because I started getting kind of interested in how this works, but it like sweat is fine because that's just salt water coming out of you, right? But it's
Yeah.
usually in the armpit area where the proteins and all that kind of stuff add together and create that bacteria and funk, and also in the private areas. So those are the two places, I guess, and breath that where the smell is coming from. And it's like if you just tend to that, I know guys they usually are sweaty and like just drenched sometimes. That I can deal with because I mean there's no odor. Of course, there's gonna be like, oh, your shirt's wet, but I'm kind of expecting
Mhm.
that, especially as dance goes on later throughout the night.
Yeah.
It's the odor, right? I actually have I don't know if you have any stories, but there's one story that stands out to me where it was bachata and we're in an open position, but the guy kept breathing, I think, out of his mouth and it kept hitting my face. And I remember holding my breath for the song
Mhm.
and being like, I don't know if I can do this anymore because I'm holding my breath for a very
Ooh.
long time. And so if he spun me, I would try to take a gulp of fresh of fresh air and then
That's real. That's real.
hold my
Ooh.
breath again. And I
Ooh.
was like, this 3 minute song needs to go faster because I'm starting
Yeah.
to lose
Yeah.
I can't breathe. So please, ladies and gents,
Like turning blue and purple.
if in doubt, have some gum or
Please, please.
recommend.
Oh my goodness. Okay. Oh, wait. Okay. Other pet peeve. Oh, speaking of, because you mentioned it, and I have a little thing of hand sanitizer because I'm like, oh, if I'm eating, right? Like I don't know, like I don't. I try to wash my hand if I had like anything that might have like nuts or things like that, right? I'm like, oh, let me wash my hands because I don't want to pass, I don't want to pass that on. But and this for me is like this is like a major like, hey, like this is not acceptable like at all. I was at an event. I won't say the place, but I will say that it was a bachata event, right? And I feel like you got to understand. Like I love salsa and bachata, especially traditional. I love traditional bachata. I am just like I love it. Like I love it. So when I say things, I'm not saying this about like, oh, like I don't care about the community or I don't care about the dance or anything like that. But I've seen this happen there more, like at these salsa bachata events. And there is no circumstance in which you should think it's okay to use the restroom and then not wash your hands, but especially in a social activity, there's no room for that. Like there's no excuse for it. Like that's just not that's not okay. Like that's not okay. And that is something that like I've seen it. And my immediate response is how do I graciously but also very clearly say, hey, buddy, friend, pal, my brother in Christ, I need you to wash your hands. I need you to do that. You can at least run the water and act like you're washing your hands. And we wouldn't know. We wouldn't know at all. But your villainy and your treachery is exposed for all of us to see. That's not okay, family. That's not okay. So I just that for me is something that I'm just like, I don't know what the excuse is for it. I don't like, are you made of soap? You're just so clean, you don't have to wash your is that something that I wasn't made aware? Because if that's the case, let me know how you got that, because I wanna know. I want that for myself.
Ooh, that was very eye-opening.
Ooh,
Wow. Yeah, I
but yeah,
do.
no, it's that and that's another reason why I'm like, "Oh, I gotta say this, I don't know where everyone's hands have been. I don't know." And
Yeah.
it's unfortunate, but, like, that's the reality of it. Some people have different standards for themselves, and I'm like, "Hey."
I make sure not to touch my face or anything during social dance because
Yeah.
that's how you get sick, right? Speaking of odor and stuff like that, what do you eat or what's something that's good to eat before dancing or things obviously, to things to avoid, like something that's heavy in garlic, onion, pungent things, but
Beans, lots of beans.
I have a follow-up question for that. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay, so I think like if you look at it like I kind of approach it the same way I approach like if I'm gonna go, work out or something like that. Like I'm like, okay, cool. I want to have sources of like, I'll have like oats or stuff like you have like Cliff Bar or something like that beforehand. Um, I think like it's good to have a meal, but if you're gonna do that earlier, not
Yeah, same.
like immediately before, I made the mistake of going to hot pot before before a social and
Ooh,
I that was a struggle. It was a struggle. And we made it out. We made it out okay, right? We made it out okay. But that first half, oh, that first half was it was rough. Okay, it was rough. I was like, I got to keep it basic, slow, two step. Anything more than the minimum, and yeah, we was not having a good night.
Also, I feel like the older we get, our digestion is so
It's
it
just
becomes a little bit more unpredictable, right? I notice carbs, I do well with carbs,
yeah,
because it's bread, all that kind of stuff. But again, if I want to have dinner, I'd have it at least like 2 hours before the dance at least.
yeah. I'd say so.
Um, yeah, and have you ever need to fart on the dance floor?
Absolutely. Yes. 100%. And I feel like anyone who tells you otherwise, they're lying. They're lying. It's just look, it's gonna happen. It's the reality of it. Like sometimes you get a little excited, you're like, "Ooh, I did a really cool move." And then all of a sudden you're like, boom, I got a little boost. I jumped a little bit higher, right? I got a little bit further. It's real. It's real. It happens. It happens. Here's the thing, right? If you know and you can do something about it, right? Like make your way outside, find a door. Don't stand in front of please please don't stand in front of the fan. Okay. If you know it's coming, right? If you know, just find yourself to find a door, find a corner if you can't get to the door, right? Like find somewhere where you can safely release. Because if you're out there in front of the fan, just crop dusted, family, that's not okay. That's a problem. That's look, we gotta talk about that. That's and here's the thing, people know, like they know. They're like, this is it just got sour in here. Like people know, okay, I start burning, you know what I'm saying? You stop being able to think straight. Like we can tell. So so please be responsible, you know what I'm saying? Do what you gotta do. Just if you can help it, find your way to a door, find your way to a bathroom, just, pull away because it's already going to get hot. It's already going to be stinky. There's already a lot of like, bodies and odor and sweat and everything, right? There's no need to add to it. We already got a jambalaya of funk. We don't need to add more to it. You know what I'm saying? Look, it's gonna happen. There's no shame, right? There's no shame. It's natural. It will happen. All I'm saying is, do what you can. Do what you can.
You know
That's
what
all
happens?
that's all I'm saying.
What happens if you need a fart in the middle of the dance?
Oh yeah, you gotta do what you gotta do. You can play it off. Find a way to play it off. If you can't hold it, you gotta play it off because like it's gonna
You
happen.
stop and you're like, I gotta go.
Oh no, no, no. You can't
No.
you can't stop the dance. Look, you can't stop.
Now I want to hear from you guys. Would you, if you need to fart, would
Mm.
you stop the dance?
I don't think you can, I don't think you should. I mean, how big of a fart, right? Like that's the real question. Like how bad is it, right? Is it
Like,
because if it's loud, the music got you. But if it's deadly, you just got to spin a lot because then it'll distribute. But no, that's not how it works. I'm sorry.
I think I might. I think I would stop. I would be like,
I
I'm
don't.
so sorry.
Yeah,
And I think I'm at that age where I would just probably straight up and be like, I'm so sorry. I have to fart and I'll be right
yeah.
back.
I gotta go.
And
I gotta
and
take
they
care of
know
something. It just came up. I'll be right back.
because if I'm just thinking of the other person's feelings. Like if you just say like,
Yeah,
I'm sorry, I have to excuse myself,
yeah,
and then you just ditch them,
yeah.
they might think like something wrong with me, and
Hmm.
unless they see you running to the bathroom, then that's
Yeah,
even different. But sometimes at these places, there's a line at the bathroom. So
that's
like you said,
true.
go outside, find a corner.
Yeah, yeah,
All right. So love this talk about body odor and stuff and body functions because it's very real.
yeah. It's real. It's real.
It's
Oh my
very real.
goodness, it's real.
Let's
Yeah,
let's talk about pet peeves that we have or noticed come up when it comes to maybe not necessarily people, but just maybe dynamics and stuff. And I
mhm.
will say, I think one thing that I don't like is when people have a. I don't run into this often at all, but if they have a poor attitude, right, when dancing.
Ooh, yeah,
So it could be sometimes I'm like, okay, this guy, he kind of is like staring off at a distance and he doesn't even look at me when we're dancing. And I'm like, is he just tired and not engaged, or he's just not enjoying this dance with me? It's like an apathetic look, right? But I also have heard that this guy told me he was dancing with a girl once and she was more advanced, obviously, probably competition level, but her attitude was pretty sour. And it kind of have had that like face of, "Ugh, I'm dancing with
yeah,
you." And I'm like, this is a social dance. People are coming with different skill sets, different levels, and people are still learning, and we need more encouragement so people can continue and want to dance. And it
sure.
just leaves you like feeling really down when you dance with someone like that. I once danced with someone that didn't seem to care. And that kind of it didn't I walked away from the dance feeling really discouraged for the rest of
Yeah,
the night. And you
yeah.
shouldn't have that ruin your night, but it just does.
I mean, it's a very like this whole dance thing is a very vulnerable thing, and like you're exposing yourself in a lot of ways to the potential for rejection. And I think like us being social creatures, that hurts a lot when you're dancing with someone who maybe they are good, right? Maybe they do have that level of skill, and then instead of being treated like, oh, I'm a human, it's like, oh, I'm not worth the time. Like there was a dance I had not too long ago with someone who, and it didn't ruin my night, but it definitely like I definitely took like a dance or two to like kind of collect myself.
Yeah.
Because like they were a good dancer, but the entire time it felt like I was trying to get their attention, and like they had that look like it was that exact thing of like that apathy and that just like, like I don't want to be here. Even from the jump, like I asked them, like, how would you like to dance? And I had danced with them before, but I'd see them around. So I was like, oh, would you like to dance? And the entire time, I don't know. Now I don't know if this attitude was something that like if it had nothing to do with me, or like what was going, or maybe that was just how like how they're that was just their face, right? But the energy that I got was very much, it felt to me like it was this, I don't want to be here. I'd rather be anywhere else, kind of looking off to the sides and just kind of like, like it felt like I was like, yo, I don't want to be here. If you don't want to be here, I don't want to be here. It's fine if you don't. But then I'd rather you just said no. I'd rather you just said, no, I'm good. Thank you. Then say yes. And then the entire time we're just like, I'm like, what are we doing? You
Right.
know?
Yeah, attitude and that energy, it makes such a huge difference,
Yeah.
for sure. I think someone that's not that dance socials are necessarily a place where you're given feedback, but when you feel that person's resistant to hearing anything on your side, or like, I think someone that's just not open to feedback, or
Yeah,
maybe their ego is up there thinking like they don't, I'm better than you. This doesn't
yeah,
happen often, but I think another thing that I run into sometimes is like a machismo, I don't know, it's toxic masculinity, but like a machismo feeling of I know more than you and I'm better than you feeling, and I'm going
yeah,
to lead you in a way, like I might say like, oh, in my head I'm thinking like, oh, I think you could lead in a better way and stuff like that, but you can feel that they're not the type to be open to that.
yeah. They're
It
like,
feels a
you're
bit
gonna
more.
get what you're gonna get. There's no changes to the recipe.
Exactly,
Like,
exactly.
yeah,
And I don't know if domineering is the right word, but just more of like they think they think they're really good, and a lot of
yeah,
times I'm like, you
yeah,
you okay, but you're not as like the top tier as you think, which is fine. But it's the fact that you have this like huge ego and pride about it.
yeah. It's what's the word? It's like the kind of like condescending and like self-righteous-ish or something like that. It's like, ooh, I've done this for so long and I have this many medals and this. It's like, okay, cool, but like you're low-key buttons. You're not all. You know what? I had a couple of different experiences with, I'd say, people who are like, pretty high level. And there's one person in particular in West Coast Swing that I had to dance with. And it was like while I was like first starting out. And the entire time, it was just like I felt like they were just looking down. And it was just like it was absolute. I was like, this is the worst dance I have ever had. And when I say the worst, I mean it was like it felt so bad because I was like, oh, this is a beginner class that you taught. And when one of those beginners like mustered up the strength to ask you if you would like to dance, you said yes, knowing they were a beginner, and then the entire time like just treated them like they were the worst thing on the dance floor. I was like, dude, in another dance style, I'm dope. I'm not the best ever, but like I'm pretty proficient, right? And at least this is like what I'm telling myself. I was probably trash at the time. I don't know, but I was like, look, in this other language, I can speak that very well. This is something new. Like, how dare you treat another person like that? And it just left this like taste in my mouth. Just like I don't want to be that person for somebody else. I'm just like, man, like if you're good or you're decent or whatever, whether you're a pro who's been doing it for years or you're brand new, I don't think you should ever look at someone, especially someone who's trying, with contempt. Like, no, like this is how you build the community. Like you build it by taking care of people who are new and encouraging them to keep going. Like that's how you grow something. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah, it's like a plant. You water it. You
That's what
don't.
I'm saying.
As a lead, what are maybe some pet peeves you have with followers?
Ooh, when followers dip themselves, I'm like, please don't, because sometimes my knees don't be working like they should. Please don't do that. That's just dangerous. And here's the thing: if a follow, if a person dips themselves, and then I'm like, they want to dip themselves, and then I don't catch them, it's on me. You know what I'm saying? It's like no, like how do I explain? No, 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 no. I didn't do that. They did that. I was chilling. They did. I didn't, because I didn't know they were gonna, like, you can't explain that. I can't explain that. It's like, no, you would lead, you're supposed to be responsible, you're supposed to be attentive, like, boom. So I think like that's not just like dipping. I think that the deeper thing there is like it's I love when I have someone who is willing to express themselves, but like there are certain things that like, hey, we both need to be ready for. And there's a point where it becomes like where we're not even having a conversation. You're just talking. You're like, keep up. I'm like, that's not good. That's not good for a lot of reasons. Like that's not good. Like that can also be dangerous, especially like I think with newer people or like folks who don't really, maybe they're not really aware of like floor craft, right? Or like aware of like, hey, kind of stay in a lane. Like you don't want to just go around the whole floor. You want to kind of stay in a lane. Um, and they might have a lot to say, musically, and they're really feeling the song, they're in the moment, but there's a level of like, hey, you gotta also be aware other people are here. And so it can make it really difficult to lead sometimes where where it becomes less about having a conversation and more about like protecting everyone else from the Beyblade that is like circling around and kind of threatening to knock people sideways. So yeah, that's a pet peeve. But I'll say another little one is dancing with with people who are not willing to respect boundaries. I think that's another one. And like it doesn't happen often, but especially as someone who has a partner who is not in the dance world, I do try to be very intentional about like being clear that like, hey, I'm here to dance. I'm not here for anything else, right? And we can definitely go deep into this topic, but I'll just kind of keep it like, kind of relatively short. Like there
Definitely
are,
another. We're definitely do another podcast
oh
episode.
no, for sure. Like I've in some instances and like very few, thankfully, but like I've had to be like, hey, hold on, like we gotta stop. Like this can't happen. Like this can't happen again. You know what I mean? I'm like, this is too much. And
You're not on the menu. You're not
I'm
on the.
like, look, I'm not on the menu. I cannot, there's no 9.95. There's no 5 payments of 9.95, no credit card. It's not happening. It can't happen. It's not, there's no samples. This ain't Costco. Like, it's not a thing. You know what I'm saying? It's not a thing. And like, I'm just thinking of specific instances right now, but I'm like, I don't want to say too much. I do want to save it. But what I will say is just like it's always uncomfortable when you have to kind of shut things down or maybe like shut people down. Cause I want to be someone who like people feel comfortable and feel open and feel like they can be themselves around. But also it's like, hey, no, like I have boundaries too. And like if you're not picking up on the subtle cues, then I have to be more, more clear, more like, outright. And that's not always comfortable. And I'm like, hey, I don't want to embarrass anyone. I don't want anyone to feel like, you know, alienated or anything like that. But also like boundaries a boundary. You know what I'm saying? If I gotta shut it down, I'm gonna shut it down. And I'm sorry, you know. But I do think that there's a level of awareness that we should strive to have because we want people to feel comfortable. We want people to feel safe. We want people to feel like they can enjoy themselves without it feeling like the club or feeling like, oh, people are here for other reasons other than just dance. You know what I mean? Otherwise, they probably just go to the club where that's more or less the reason people tend to go. At least that's my understanding of it.
Yeah. And I think it just shows like it you don't have to be just a woman to like have to encounter this. You can be a guy
Oh,
just like you. I
oh
mean,
yeah,
luckily for me, I haven't encountered any of that.
yeah.
So hopefully in the whole scheme of things, it doesn't happen as often. If it's a dance scene
Yeah.
and there's alcohol involved, maybe or like at a bar and stuff like that. But when it's just a dance studio,
Oh,
totally.
that's another. People who got the alcohol breath. It's like, come on, boo boo. You decided, you decided to do that. You knew, like, come on.
Yeah.
You can grab them in. You can grab a little, a little Altoid, right? A little
Back,
Altoid piece, just boom, right there. Come on, son.
bring it
Like
back to the BO. Oh my.
that.
How do you, you know what? We talked about before about people being offbeat, and it's like, ooh, but also, you know what? How do you feel though about when someone asks you to dance multiple times throughout the night or back to back?
Ooh. You know what? I have a rule kind of in place for myself where like I have a certain number where I'll dance back to back to back with someone, and then like after that point, I'm like, okay, cool. Like we just gotta we gotta let it cool down, you know. And even if they're like really good dances, right? I'm just like that's a rule for myself, especially because like I think it's very easy to. I mean, dance is a very intimate thing, and even if it's not necessarily an intimate dance, it's very easy to get kind of like wrapped up in it. And I don't want people to get the wrong idea, and I also don't want to kind of like give myself any space because like I'm a human being, right? And I'm like, if it's difficult to stay in the kitchen knowing that you like food and then expect yourself not to go and eat or not to go and grab something. So it's like just as an extra measure for both myself and for I'm like, hey, like there's a certain number. I'm like, okay, cool. We're gonna chill out. I'm gonna go over here. I'm gonna get some water. You get some water, right? Like, we're gonna chill. Unless it's somebody that like I know them, like I actually have a relationship with them. I'm like, okay, cool. We're gonna kind of limit. And so I love being asked to dance, but I will politely say, "Hey, let's dance around a little bit," or I'm going to take a break, and then I'll just go get some water or something like that, and chill out for a minute. Um, Even if they're a great dancer, even if the connection is there, even all that, because I'm just like, again, I'm here to dance. I'm here for the vibes. I don't want someone to get the wrong idea, and I don't want that to be something that is sends the wrong message, sends the wrong signal.
if there is a follower though that wanted to dance with you back to back and they know you're not single, you have a
Mhm.
girlfriend, are you okay with that though? Because you know that they know you're off the menu.
Mhm. Oh, back to back. Yeah. I mean, it's like, I think that's where it depends on the person. Like, again, like if I know the person and I know, I'm like, oh, yeah, like, oh, it's just all like, we're just vibing. Like, it's just cool. I'm like, yeah, cool. Let's go. We can, like, I don't mind dancing multiple dances with people, especially people that, like you just click and you're like, oh, this song is like this is a that person's song, right? I'm like, yeah, like I love it. But I'm also just like, hey, I don't want to give the wrong idea or the wrong impression, or like leave any space for anything to to be taken the wrong way. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, yes.
But if it's somebody I know, like if it's the homies, I'm like, yeah, let's go, let's run it, like let's run it, let's do it. All right, we're back at it. Let's get number three going, right? Um,
Yeah, even if I enjoy dancing with a person a lot, I try to be considerate and say, like, I don't want to hog you when
mm,
I know other people want to dance with you.
that's true.
Or sometimes there's a person I just don't have a good connection with, and they might ask me to dance multiple times, like not in a row, but just kind of like 3, 4 times throughout the night. But I don't feel that connection with them, but they just happen to be in proximity to me, close
Yeah.
to me, and just happen to turn and be like, "Do you want to dance again?"
Mhm.
Um, and that's where I get a little iffy because I don't know if I might not feel a connection, but maybe they do. But
Mhm.
it's hard to explain that to someone. It's like, is it
Yeah.
even a place to explain it? So I try to that's my personally the way I think. But yeah, like again, I there's some people where I'm like, I could dance back to back many times. Let's see how we interpret this song and stuff. But
Mhm.
I try not to be a ball hog. So
Ball hog is. Yeah. No, that's a good one. That's a good one. I like that. Let's keep that
yeah,
one.
yeah. So we want to hear from you guys if you have dealt with BO or, experiences, hear your stories, or if there's a pet peeve that you have with dancing that we haven't mentioned yet, let us know down below in the comments or message us, DM us. If you enjoyed this episode, please share it with a friend and give us a follow and also a 5-star rating on Apple or Spotify. You can follow us on social media at Fusion Dance Podcast, and we'll include again all the links down below in the show notes. And you can reach out to us at fusiondancepodcast@gmail.com. So thanks so much for listening to today's episode about bodily functions and more. And we will see you next time.
Bye.